but I want to turn it over to Kim now, and and we'll probably have time for discussion at the end. So thank you all so much.
Okay, so this is probably the most general talk we've ever had in these sessions. It obviously relates to digital pathology and AI, but is many layers sort of above it in being just a kind of general talk about the future. And I gave another such talk that you were very positive in response to, that I was pleased to see a few weeks ago. And I think that talk was flawed in the sense that if you look at this graphic and think about a Star Trek future, there are many systemic barriers in our society to widespread participation in that. When it exists, there are going to be a lot of people who will be left out, right? So it's not really a good thing to aim for at the moment, also because it makes me sound like the leaders of large entities out there. When Sam Altman talks about the future, he's usually talking about a sort of utopian future, which is similar to what I've been talking about. Similarly with Yen LeCun and other leaders in AI now. So I was kind of searching around for something that would be a bit more specific to me and my interests. And I realized there's a real opportunity when it comes to the simulation hypothesis. Now, when I say that phrase, many of you will think, but others have already taken that over entirely. There's no opportunity. And then you would realize suddenly that while that should be the case, it's not the case at all. Anything you might read would tell you that the simulation hypothesis began in 2003. That's completely wrong. It began in 2001. And you would think that the origin story about something is an important part of that something. So there are more opportunities in this space than you might initially imagine. Yeah, so just going back, and some of these slides are similar to what I gave you a few weeks ago, but now have this simulation hypothesis entered in here. So when I presented before, I said utopia is too strict, and so we're aiming for a Star Trek future. And now I realize that there would be many barriers to a Star Trek future, particularly if we think about having it available to everyone. So I'm concentrating here on positive twists in individual human lives that could constitute evidence for the simulation hypothesis. Now, you may think other people have done that, but they haven't. Everybody who's talked about the simulation hypothesis is talking about it as a big thing. They're not talking about it in individual people's lives. And the problem with talking about it in individual people's lives is how can you define it? How can you be really sure that this event you've picked is really related to the idea that we're living in a simulation? But the benefit is that there are pretty convincing arguments now that if you really address the main thing, you could end our existence, because maybe whatever is making the simulation, part of the deal is the people within it don't know that they're in it. And when they do know that they're in it, then the whole thing should end. So that's a pretty scary idea. If you concentrate on events in individual sort of high points in people's humanness, if you will, sort of celebrating humanness, it's a way to solve AI alignment by getting machines interested in these positive peaks of what humanity's doing. And who else has suggested that? So Elon Musk is creating this new large language model with a focus on the universe and truth. And he's claiming one of the big advantages that it has is that it will convince the machines that humans are really cool and necessary for the future. And so, yeah, but I think that's a less convincing argument than mine. Whereas if you focus on the positive twists in individual human lives that could constitute evidence for a stimulation hypothesis, if machines buy that, they'll be more enamored of us. They'll like us more than following this big idea of Elon's of the entire universe and humanity's place in it, and so on. I think that's a harder argument to make. Now, I think you should all find this slide riveting because you probably have had fantasies about if you had a time machine and could go back and change events in the past, how the present would be different. And this is a real example of that. So in 2012, I prepared myself to apply to be part of this Singularity Institute in AI Rationality and Awesomeness mini camp. And it sounds a bit silly now, but I was very serious about it then. And of course, I was way older than the other applicants, but I was interviewed by Luke Mulhauser and rejected. I think he felt I didn't really fit the demographic that they were looking for. But if I had taken that mini camp, I think I would not be talking to you today about positive outcomes with our artificial general intelligence and the simulation hypothesis, because that camp would have beat all of those instincts out of me and left me just following their party line. One advantage of having this evidence from individual lives of the simulation hypothesis is it specifically counters this danger philosopher Preston Green talks about in this 2019 New York Times article, where he says, if you really start looking into the simulation hypothesis as a general entity and try to solve it, there are only two outcomes. One is that everybody's existence will end, or the result will be completely negative and completely boring. There are only those two outcomes. So he's saying, let's not find out. I think there's no danger looking in individual lives of having existence end, because there's such a big gulf between these positive moments in individual lives that make you think that we may be living in a simulation and the whole ball of wax. They're just very far apart. Now, this is Robin Hanson's 2001 article. So this is September 2001. The original article about the idea that we could be living in a simulation went online in March 2001 by Nick Bostrom. And I don't think we should penalize him forever for taking 2 years to publish. I think that's probably good. But he obviously, a lot happened in 2001, and that's the reason that Robin Hanson wrote this very interesting article about how to behave if we know we're living in a computer simulation. Now, Robin and I have gotten to know each other a bit, and he has allowed me to use his name in promoting these ideas that I'm telling you about today. And he'll probably play a larger role in some of the things that we do later. Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting graphic. This 2019 New York Times article does not, it has a video for a graphic of sort of people falling in an endless universe. And it's a little bit hard to capture, but that's kind of cool. Now, a lot of well-known people have supported the idea that we live in a computer simulation. Elon Musk has said that there's a 1 in a billion chance that we don't. In other words, there's a 1 in a billion chance that we're actually in base reality. Yeah, and Deepak Chopra, who has a close relationship with the course that I teach, and that the most popular presentations in the course are in quantum biology. And Deepak Chopra is writing a book called Quantum Body with the guy who teaches that subject in my course. And he has written and done many videos supporting the idea of that we live in a computer simulation. And anyway, it's a widely supported idea. So what I have at the moment are these 7 instances in my life, and you will notice that one of these is a future instance. So number 7 is August 15th, 2023. Say, what the heck is that? Well, as some of you know, in January of this year, one of my close colleagues here at work, Julinar Bakani, she and I are sort of jointly tasked with maintaining the spirit of our department, keeping things upbeat. And she turned 50, and I pretended to be Rod Stewart and performed as Rod Stewart with a Rod Stewart wig for her 50th birthday party on January 14th. And you can think of a lot of things going wrong in an event like that. It had a lot of people that I had never met before, and you could particularly think of people saying something unkind to me, but that didn't happen. So it was much more successful than either Julian or I had anticipated. So I was the fake Rod Stewart. Now the real Rod Stewart is coming to Edmonton to perform. And I have an entourage of 14 people that I think Brad will be one of the 14 going to this. And I think some pretty cool things may happen that evening. We'll see. We may have to remove it from the list. But other things here, they are statistically unlikely action sequences, plot twists, and turning points. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the Thanksgiving Day 1986 one. Thanksgiving Day in the United States is a very serious holiday. You stay home for it, you do stuff with your family, you may have other people visiting you. You don't like go to work on Thanksgiving. Who does that? But anyway, something moved me to go to my office on Thanksgiving Day, and I was impressed with how completely abandoned the Johns Hopkins pathology building was. And I walk in and all the lights are off. There's not a sound. There's not even janitorial staff. There's nobody. So I make my way to my office, open the door, and the phone rings. Who are you calling me in my office on Thanksgiving Day? What is going on here? And it was the dean of medicine here at the University of Alberta offering me the chair position. I had visited here in September. The visit had gone well. The search and selection committee had met, and he was making the offer. And because he lives in Canada, he didn't quite twig to the idea that this was Thanksgiving Day, so I shouldn't be in my office. But so what he now says about it, I wanted to see, because he's the other participant. So what does he think about this? Was this something weird? And he said, no, it was just a happy accident. You know, I had no idea I was calling you on a national holiday, but I really liked the enthusiastic way in which you responded to the offer, and everything went well from there on, you know? So, yeah. So some of the, you might say, well, yeah, I guess that's statistically unlikely. It's not that like otherworldly. Some of these other things are a bit more otherworldly. I won't go through them all, and I'd like you to leave me a little curious about them. But what about the character of the stories? Are they mostly medical? Yes, they mostly are. For instance, the Nagarkot, Nepal one, when you hear the story, you realize that's the closest I've ever come to actually doing something stupid and dying. Not only dying, but dying in a setting where no one would ever find the body. Anyway, that's reasonably impressive. And the guy who saved me from that fate is a well-known physician. Yeah, so that yeah, and many of these others are sort of medical stories, and also stories about my life and plot twists and turning points. Yeah, so it isn't my idea to focus on my own life, but simply to start encouraging everybody to do these kinds of things, to look in their own lives for this evidence of computer stimulation acting in their own lives, and high points that celebrate humanness, and that hopefully will be noted by machines. So when machines are in charge, they will be, benign in their attitude toward us. And then we can use that to make a success of all these other things. We were planning to use AI to help solve the 24 challenges of the human race. This all-inclusive list, which I'm quite proud of, and the reason it's all-inclusive, of course, contains other and unknown unknowns. So anything you think should be on the list that you don't see there is actually on the list. Yeah. And so the computer simulation effects would help to solve AI alignment, making computers more benign and respectful about humans, no matter how wide the gulf between their intelligence and ours gets, that even when we're dumb as a stone, they will still respect us if all goes well. Yeah. And then we have this sort of research team in waiting, quite an impressive group of people with indigenous people, people of color, people from all different interest areas, including my middle son who's interested in classics. Yeah. And then we have young people also. And you might think that the history here is very simple, that these large language models just kind of keep getting better and better. But if you read this article in Wired on April 17th, Sam Altman says, no, they've reached the peak of performance of large language models. It can't get better than where it is now. And future advances will come in reinforcement learning, which is good news for our local AI expert that I work with, Rich Sutton, because that's his area. He wrote the book on reinforcement learning, and he also feels that's the most logical way to get to higher levels of intelligence in machines. So then this is his Twitter statement called Eyes on the Prize from September 29th. And he uses this as a theme for many of his talks this year. And the part of this that may trouble you and other people is this thing beyond humanity, beyond life. What does that mean? Well, if you think about it, why did I shy away from the areas of AGI utopia and the Star Trek world? Humans can't get there alone, but with AGI we can. We can figure out how to do that, how to make it equitable. Yeah, and by celebrating peak moments of our humanness as evidence of a computer simulation, we can promote AI alignment and save the day. And then what if I've left something out? This is slide 13. What if I left something out? Well, music and poetry will save us. And we are already, so that's our entity, the future and all that jazz, with singer Mallory Chipman. She and I are planning an album in 2024. We already have the first track, which is called Heart Drive, that I think you will find quite satisfying, and simulation can be a theme of that album. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my presentation, and we'll see how much your physiology seems to have been altered by this. It's nice that Richard has joined us. I don't know if he was here for all or just a small part of the talk, but anyway, welcome, Richard. And any spontaneous responses would be welcome. I realize this is an area that's very controversial, and this is one of the first public discussions of my own ideas about it, which you may find deeply flawed. Yeah, so anyway, I'm interested in the reaction that you might have.
I just wonder about
That was
pigeons.
really great.
Pigeons.
Yeah. That was really great.
Yeah. I haven't had any personal experience with pigeons one way or the other, really, but I'm aware of your work on that, which I respect a lot. But I'm not encouraging people to use stories of themselves and pigeons as one of their iconic stories of high points in their life, because that might not be a humanness high point.
Yeah, that was really outstanding. I let other people talk first because I'm not, I need to process it more. It was a lot to think about. But I'd also like to welcome Talak Pathak. I think he's actually part of Anant Mataboshi's group who's going to be speaking
Hello.
later this summer. So you want to briefly
Sure,
introduce yourself? Yeah, yeah.
sure. Good morning, everyone. And my name is Tilak Pathak. I'm pathologist. I'm originally from Nepal. I'm so happy Dr. Solez he met in Nagarkot in Nepal, 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and at
Cool.
that times I was a resident in pathology. You must have been visited in Tribhuvan University Teaching Hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's really exciting because that is such an ideal story. I'm also writing a book, and that sort of gives the history of how the book was initially, at least, written.
yeah,
That there were these very lengthy phone calls with people advising me on the book. And the reason I went outside our room and the door shut and locked, leaving me in the dark, and I continued with the call is I consider these calls about the book to be very important. So I didn't want to kind of like interrupt this plan. And it was only after the call finished that I decided that I now had a choice to make. I could wake up one of the most esteemed physicians that I knew, a guy who sleeps with a CPAP machine. So I was going to have to make quite a lot of noise in order to wake him up and get him to open the door. Or I could just walk around the building to the front door, but I was not sure that there was a path all the way around. And the next morning, I discovered Nepal black holes, which I didn't know about before. These are areas of the forest that are so dark black that if you point a camera at them, your flash comes on because it is so incredibly dark. And I also realized it was maybe a mile down. I mean, it was so scenic because of the there were these steep cliffs and you could see way down many miles.
yeah,
And I think that's where I would have ended up if in the dark I tried to walk around the house. So it's a good thing that, that I didn't, but it's a story that sort of brings to mind a lot of unusual sort of paradigms or metaphors that you don't usually think about,
yeah.
and making decisions about bothering important people. Yeah, so I have put that question to the guy and who was sleeping with the CPAP machine. He's surrounded by very good people, and so they have gotten back to me saying I'll have the answer they think by tomorrow, Friday, but he's getting ready for a big important overseas trip and so on. They have other higher priority tasks for him to do first. I said, that's fine. I don't need an answer to this immediately,
Yeah.
And when I have that answer, I'll know whether I can tell you the name of the guy, and you'll say, "Oh my God!" Yeah, yeah. So it's wonderful to meet you and to find that 2009 trip is so well documented. I mean, the flowers arranged right by the edge of the cliff are so cool. And I got such good pictures of them. So I not only have pictures of this incredibly dark, black hole that I would have fallen into,
Yeah,
but also the flowers. It could have been my, memorial because nobody could have found the body, right? So yeah, they're very appealing flowers, well maintained. Yeah. And I also have a picture of the guy sleeping in the bed inside, not in the bed, but I mean, during that visit of him being active and so on. It's a very good picture of him from 2009. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's as if the maker of the simulation had made sure that all these pieces, including meeting you today, were sort of retained to make this a really good story.
Yeah.
And then I have a close colleague now still living in Edmonton who is teaching me what Nepalese culture is like and what Nepalese people would feel about a computer simulation, how it feeds into the various predominant religions and other things, and yeah, so it's a very interesting subject.
Yeah.
The other thing that has yet to be explained, but it's perfectly fine. We prepared a special version of the course for the new undergraduate university that Arjun Karki is
Yeah.
putting together.
Yeah.
And we were going to put this special version of the course just for Nepalese people together. And then suddenly he stopped asking us for updates. And I figure, I know he's very busy getting ready with the launching of this new university, but I also sense somebody must have told him this, course that Dr. Solez is pitching you is not suitable for the new university you are creating, in the opinion of your advisors. So I want you to stop encouraging him to create this course because it's too strange and weird for us. Yeah, so I think that's what's happened. Yeah.
And
So
it was,
he wanted to really challenge the students in that undergraduate university course to be more clear thinking and rational rather than just conforming. And I think that's probably where the idea of us giving this sort of special version of our course on technology and the future medicine. I think probably there were enough people saying, well, the other main aims of the university are in peril if you let Dr. Solez teach this course. We won't do what we're supposed to do if you let him do that. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's really, amusing to fantasize about that. But it was nice for us because the young people helping me with this are young people with busy lives. And I told them, no, stop everything. I understand we have been put on pause. It could be a long pause, and don't do anything related to that course. We may come back to it, but I think we would say we're a course ahead of its time in terms of Nepalese students. I think that's what we've created. Maybe it would be fine for future students, but not for students of the present.
okay. And what about is it the medicine or in computer science or something?
No. It isn't particularly medical.
Okay.
No. Yeah, it has the word medicine in the course, but it does not require medical training to understand the course.
Okay. Yeah.
Just
Okay.
thought
Good.
I'd put up this slide real quick to just let Anna and also Talak know about what our major goals are. We've been working on an image bank and platform to share algorithms, and also a competition or a trial that's coming in the future. And obviously we have talks like this, which was a great talk, simulation hypothesis. I think, we meet every 2 weeks, and partly it's been a random, collection of things, but I think it all goes toward, how does, digital pathology relate to transplantation, and how, things like the simulation hypothesis, could affect the future of medicine. So yeah, I mean, I think that this was all things are pretty much related, but these are our 3 things, and we're working on a paper now to kind of summarize these goals and our progress so far. But we do have some progress on getting, especially with this digraph study, which I hear it's a holiday in the Netherlands today, but this group in the Netherlands with Jorn van der Lack and Mikey and Dominique are putting together this study, which several of us are trying to participate in. So we do have concrete ideas, and if like I said, if Talak or Anna, if you want to speak or have suggestions in the future, we're definitely open to that. But so yeah, so sorry, I wanted to just make sure we mentioned that, but definitely I want to open it up to any other comments on the simulation hypothesis.
Okay, great. Thank you for this inviting and then great opportunity. And definitely I'll bring up something. I'm working as pathology as a clinical coordinator, and I'm coding all pathology related projects. And we have lots of, I think, the more than 40 in pathology projects.
Wow.
Right, and we have the very multidisciplinary. We are not working only in this oncology. We are working in kidney biopsy, kidney pathology as well.
Oh, wow.
Definitely, and I'll bring up something from our group and later. But right now, today is my first day. Just I need to learn something and background and everything. I'll go through it, and then definitely I'll come something.
Well, yeah, that was just a quick summary.
Sure.
But we definitely want to welcome anything that you have to say, and and I think this has been a great venue for talks like Kim's today of
it is.
Multidisciplinary and thinking about the future. So we're open to a lot of things here, and also trying to stay focused, and and we actually Kim has and Lynn is also helping with this controversies conference that's coming up in the fall, and that should be interesting on mainly on ethics, right? In like transplantation.
So often it's a bit vague. What's the difference between the role of the first author and the last author in something? Well, in the controversies conference proposal, I'm the first author and Lynn is the last author. And in the letter to the editor that we're doing, we intend to include 5 questions about the ethics of pig to human transplants. And Lynn is tasked with putting those 5 questions together. One of the most important things ever in the universe. So I just want you to be a bit in awe of her. And she's not 50 yet, she's almost. Yeah, and I'm happy. Fake Rod Stewart would be happy to perform for Lynn's 50th. I would be honored.
Well, any other comments? So where did the simulation hypothesis, what's the history? Where did it kind of start?
Well, Nick Bostrom is a well-known thinker about super intelligence and sort of where AI is going. So this was an idea of his that he wrote an essay on in March of 2001. And then that same website, as simple as it is, it's just a link, but now he's putting everything beyond there. So if you go in there, you will find the New York Times article from January 2023 and so on. It gives a very good chronological history of what's happened with the idea. But Robin Hanson, who I am now collaborating with, is the only person to actually write about how one should behave if you feel that you're living in a computer simulation, how it would affect choices. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, well, I'll definitely share the recording with you, and you can decide. I'll let you decide how you want to distribute it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it depends upon the activities in the afternoon that I was telling you about.
Okay.
So we'll see how the reception in that office is, and whether it suggests that I shouldn't make anything public about this, or that I should make it massively public, or whatever. So I think I'll be a lot clearer on that. Yeah, and so
I'll wait to post it then, and you can
yeah,
if you want to. I
yeah.
think it'd be great. I think this was very interesting, and if you want to put it on wherever, that'd be great. Yul has a comment about the physics community, about the yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a neat Netflix documentary on infinities, and how they're, there may be infinite versions of ourselves, and it goes into quantum mechanics and things like that. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of ways in which individual sessions can be exemplary, but I have to say that I like the chat in this particular session better. Yeah, these are really good remarks in the chat. So.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. Yeah. Great.
I'm copying them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed the talk. It made me think as they usually do, and I appreciate your joining, Tilak, and Anna, I think, had to drop off, but thank you for you all. Yeah.
So what I think about 2 weeks from now is that if Alex Lupi isn't able to join, it's possible there'll be enough progress in what I presented today that I'll have more stuff to tell you about it. So
yeah, and I can also, before then, I'll try to send out an update on the paper, and we can talk about the next steps on that too. And it's good that Alex might be joining, because we had actually included him, but I never actually got confirmation he wanted to be on it. So, it might be good to, if he's available, for him to comment on that.
Yeah. Excellent.
Great. Well, if there's no one else,
okay, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, good luck with your session later, and thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care.